What's up, guys? I have noticed that my viewer base is generally split into two distinct portions. The first is the group of oddballs that prefers their videos to have visual stimulation. Weird concept, can't quite wrap my head around that one. And then there are the normal people who prefer to use these videos as podcasts. I am pleased to announce that in this video, and hopefully more in the future, both camps should be satisfied because we will be going over a good amount of replays in this video to illustrate the points that we'll be going over at the beginning. And for those of you who just prefer to listen, apparently I get played in a lot of cars, then you will be fine as well, since you know me, I love to ramble in great, even excessive detail. Anyway, today's topic is black and white sleep. So for those who don't know, Gen 5 changed the sleep mechanics so that when your Pokemon gets put to sleep, it resets when you switch out. So easy example, Suicune uses rest. Suicune burns 1 turn of sleep, Suicune burns 2 turns of sleep, and normally Suicune would be ready to wake up, right? But Suicune is forced to switch out before it manages to wake up, and thus when it comes back in, then it still has those 2 turns of sleep. It's brutal. It's really nasty. It killed rest talk users, things like Suicune, and it killed, it made sleep moves really, really strong. I mean, some people were thinking at the beginning of the generation, Darkrai wouldn't be broken without these new sleep mechanics, and yes, it would have. But, so don't worry, now that sleep moves are banned, there's no chance of Darkrai coming back. But there's no denying that sleep is incredibly powerful because it's almost a KO, pretty much, if you manage to land it. So, in response to sleep being as powerful as it was, then there was an uprising of sleep talk users. So we'll be going over some of those. But before we go over those, we'll go over the sleep users in black and white. So the primary ones are the 2 Brelooms, both Technician and Poison Heal. And in black and white 2, then Amoonguss joined the fray. Well, Technician Breloom also joined the fray in black and white too. So it's basically Breloom, Amoonguss, Politoed, and when Sun was still allowed, then Venusaur would often run Sleep Powder as well. I always thought it was inferior to the Growth 3 attack set, but Sleep Powder is really good. And I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anything big. I scoured this list already, and sometimes you would see Roserade with Sleep Powder as well, but the 2 Breloom variants and Amoonguss were the big ones, and then occasionally you would see a Hypnosis Politoed. So Technician Breloom's a beast. I mean, something as strong as this with priority Technician Mach Punch, Focus Punch is monstrous, Okoing Latios on the Switch, and if it somehow survives, you have Mach Punch to finish it off. Spore on a Pokemon as dangerous as this is just monstrous. And then there is Poison Heal Breloom, and Poison Heal generally became more popular over time because at the beginning of Black and White 2, everyone was going, oh my god, this monstrous offensive threat, and then over the years people went, okay, it's great offensively, but defensively it offers very little, whereas Poison Heal Breloom offers the amazing utility of being a grass type that is completely immune to burn, unlike Ferrothorn, even Amoonguss. So that's a big one for it. And Spore is really nice, as always. And at first, people were using the Sweepage set that you see here with Leech Seed, Protect, Drain Punch. And then people started using Bulk Up over Leech Seed. And sometimes they would run Bulk Up Spore with no Protect. So over Protect, you would run Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Seed Bomb, or Facade. Or you would run Bulk Up and Drain Punch. There were a lot of variants. And over time, Breloom wanted so many moves that people started dropping Spore sometimes. Not always, and a lot of people felt bad about it because Sleep was so good that it felt almost wrong to give up on it. But people came equipped with more and more anti-sleep tactics, so it became more negotiable to run Spore. So there was this Poison Heal Breloom, and then there was Amoonguss, who was amazing because it was a non-pursuit weak Keldeo counter. I mean, it still feared Ban T-Tar a little bit, but it didn't automatically crumple. And in addition to countering Keldeo, and it also countered Breloom, which was amazing. And it countered Keldeo, Breloom wasn't weak to pursuit, and had Regenerator, which is amazing, and it used Spore itself, and it didn't really require a lot of moves, so it could very effectively use Sleep Talk and absorb sleep while dishing it out. So you would see a lot of Amoonguss Spores, and Stun Spore wasn't a given. You know, you could throw in things like Hidden Power, Fire, Ice, quite commonly, to better stave off things like Breloom. You could even run like Clear Smog, although that was better off without Sleep Talk. So this was both a sleep user and a sleep absorber. Especially defensive Breloom was also a decent sleep absorber, although you didn't want to switch it into an offensive Breloom, so it wasn't perfect. And finally, now those grass types were the main sleep users, but occasionally you would get Politoed with Hypnosis. Just because Politoed is sometimes seen as, yeah, it provides rain but doesn't do much else, so what else can I have it do for my team? Oh, I know, I'll have it use sleep, so it essentially gets a KO, because, you know, put it like this, you sleep something, let's say Latios without Sleep Talk, we'll get to Sleep Talk in a second, let's say Latios without Sleep Talk switches into a Politoed Hypnosis and it hits, right? So now you switch to your own Latios, as the opposing Latios is guaranteed to sleep, and the opposing Latios is pretty much forced out, and thus you more or less KO'd the Latios, because it's never going to wake up if you can consistently force it out. And that's not very hard to do with the amount of offensive firepower in black and white. So it became... not to mention, it gets even worse, because if you sleep for 2 or 3 turns, then there's no chance that you get a 1-turn sleep when you come back in. If you sleep for 2 turns and then switch out, you are guaranteed to sleep for 2 turns the next time you come in. It was... I mean, I don't know what they were thinking with these mechanics. They were horrible. So sleep was really strong. So some people would use Hypnosis Politoed, and it could be used on offensive and defensive sets. I just put on the Custat Berry set because I like that, and Endeavor too. What a fun set. Anyway, so then there were the sleep absorbers, which we'll add now. So Amoonguss was a big one. That's one of the primary ones. Another was Latios, because Latios, you know, famously only really needs Draco Meteor and Surf, and even if you dropped Surf, it would still be very good. So, you know, Draco Meteor, Surf, Dragon Pulse, and then in the last move you throw in Sleep Talk. Some people use Psyshock. I never thought it was very good, but Dragon Pulse gets the job done, so you have a 66% chance of pulling a Dragon move. So this was a go-to sleep absorber because it was good against Breloom, you know, both variants, and it wasn't instantly afraid of Amoonguss either, so it was quite good at getting the job done. And it just generally didn't have... I mean, Trick was nice, but not necessary, so... I mean, the opportunity cost of Sleep Talk is significant, and we'll get into that once we're going over the replays. So... that was one. And then another one that I particularly enjoyed was Gliscor. Now, it's not a true sleep absorber because it's not 100% guaranteed. I mean, you have to lead off with it and use Protect pretty much. But that was never a problem. Not really. Obviously, you can't block Hypnosis Politoed, but Hypnosis Politoed was not the most common thing, so it was okay. But it was good against most Breloom, good against Amoonguss. I mean, then Amoonguss starts running HP Ice, and it doesn't work out so well, but you would definitely be chipping Amoonguss down in sand, because the score fits on sand, and, you know, protecting, and you could run some Spadef to help you out a little bit, so it wasn't like it was completely doomed. But there were a lot of teams. I really enjoyed using teams with Gliscor, and then Latios and Amoonguss, and neither of them would run Sleep Talk, so I'd get to run Trick on my Latios, and, you know, Stun Spore and Hidden Power or Clear Smog on my Amoonguss, so Gliscor was an underappreciated one, so... Now, let's look at some games. Before we get into the ban, let's look into some games from when Sleep was still roaming and how Sleep Talk rose up as a response. So, this first game, I'm going to adjust my dimensions a lot in this video. So this first game is CL versus Helpona from Smogon Tour 21, playoffs round 1, I believe. Yeah. So... This was around the time where Sleep Talk Latios started getting really popular. A lot of credit goes to CL in that regard. And we're not going to be analyzing the replays themselves of, you know, these games because that's not the point. So Amoonguss Spores because it seems free, very much so. I mean, once Sleep Talk Latios became a known commodity, then a lot of Amoonguss would lead off with Stun Spore. I was a fan of that play myself because then you would completely ruin the Latios, because a sleep-talking Latios is still very dangerous. It's still bombarding you with Draco Meteor, so it's not really missing much. Yeah, you don't get to pick your move as well as you like, but I mean, the sheer power of Draco Meteor, 140 base power Draco Meteor with only steals to absorb it is, you know, still nasty, so it barely misses a beat when sleep talking. So Stun Spore cripples it a lot harder. So, but at this time, you know, you just Spore and you think you got a free KO, and here's the double powder power of Amoonguss at its peak of its powers. I loved Amoonguss at this time. Used it so much. Anyway, so a lot of stuff happens. Latios comes back into the Amoonguss. Helpona thinks he has a free switch to his Scarf Lando and gets disintegrated by a Sleep Talk Draco Meteor. So this is... Now, the short Sleep Talks can bite you, of course, as we see here, because CL has a very good chance of Sleep Talking another Dragon move and killing that Cloyster even at -2. But, you know, he wakes up early, so that sucks. But that's another point against Sleep that we'll get to later when we go over the ban, after we go over these replays, is that it's super RNG dependent, the counterplay to it. It's hoping for early wake-ups, it's hoping for good Sleep Talk rolls, it's playing around Sleep Talk. It just brings a very RNG-heavy aspect to the game, and that's generally not desirable. And we have a replay which is going to show very soon, which is going to showcase the full extent of how stupid this could be. Anyway, so Latios is, you know, barely missed a beat, got a free KO there, and by surprise, but even then, a sleep-talking Latios can still double switch or fire off attacks just like an awake Latios is. That's why it was so popular. So the rest of this game isn't really important because Latios doesn't go back to sleep, but yeah. Oh, CL actually had a Breloom of his own. I barely even noticed that. And it didn't even use Spore, I don't think. No, in this game, it just used... did it even come in before this? No, I don't think it did because of the T-Spikes. Yeah, so... stuff... Yeah, so the Breloom comes in at the end of the game and cleans up with... Mach Punch. Yeah, so Breloom was really good. So moving on to the next game. Oh, this one has me in it. Yeah, I picked this one to showcase the opportunity cost of... Well, to show off Technician Breloom, and to show off the opportunity cost of Sleep Talk. Now, a team like Ray Scarface's, which I believe was built by Finchinator, you would want Sleep Talk Amoonguss, and very often you would prefer it. But it's not as simple as just Sleep Talk on Amoonguss, and well, now you lose out on a lot of crucial things. You lose out on things like Hidden Power, Sludge Bomb, Stun Spore, Clear Smog. At the time, no one was using Worry Seed, but in theory, Worry Seed as well. So that's the problem. You do not just slap Sleep Talk on Amoonguss without consequence. I mean, most people were fine with using Sleep Talk Amoonguss because it didn't have It didn't have so many good moves that it was, you know, giving up on them. But at the same time, we're going to see here that we're going to get the the Breloom in later. U-turn out of Skarmory. So, yeah, Breloom alongside, you know, this Breloom alongside a Choice Band Tyranitar and Keldeo, you beat up on Amoonguss. I mean, it's going to eat a Fighting Gem Focus Punch or something and then T-Tar moves in on it, gets rid of it, Keldeo goes wild. So Breloom's crazy here. I mean, Ray makes a great move with Mew here, and this is why in the team builder I had this bulky Breloom, because it survives things like Mew Ice Beam from that range. And I didn't think it didn't after the Sand, but it did at that high point, which is why I went for the Bullet Seed. So yeah, Breloom, you know, goes crazy because it comes into Skarmory and sleeps it, and Skarmory basically is, you know, now dead. It's crazy, and you think just absorb it with Breloom or with Amoonguss, but it's not that simple. You know, what if Amoonguss gets Focus Punched and then Spored, and then it's at half health and has to regenerate, and now it's going to struggle to take on Keldeo at such low health with Rocks Up and Sand, and T-Tar threatens to pursue it. So, yeah, Breloom, the mind games that come with dealing with Spore, even with a so-called safe absorber of it. You know, Amoonguss did the job very well, but it wasn't completely riskless. It was a really strong aspect to have on such an already powerful Pokemon. So, yeah. Now, I'm gonna say this Amoonguss probably should have had Sleep Talk, but at the same time, it's not like that would have solved these issues, and I think this illustrates the opportunity cost of Sleep Talk very well. So yeah, now Skarm wasn't staying in and burning Sleep Talk turns on the Breloom anyway, so... But it's just a good example. Look how completely useless it is. Or how basically dead it is with no hope. I mean, the team I'm using is really offensive here, but at the same time, if the team was slower, it would still have a Pokemon that could threaten to KO the Skarm, so Keldeo. So I just switch in Keldeo every time, force the Skarm out. It's never going to wake up. It's basically dead, meaning I can play a lot more aggressively, or a lot more safely, rather, with my Lando, my CB Tar, my Breloom, so... Anyway, so... Oh yeah, now he sleeps my T-Tar with his Amoonguss, but I was sleeping there guaranteed anyway, so... I mean, there's a very low chance I came out on top in that exchange, but... Yeah, sleep crazy, so... Anyway, so now we move on to Politoed. This Politoed has Hypnosis. This is a rather mild example, because the game was going Jade's way pretty much anyway. That's who Nidor to the Hoop is. But it's an example, so knock off Ferrothorn. This is where that became popular. This is SPL 8, yeah, 2017. So, yeah, Torn comes in, doing stuff, and eventually the Jellicent is getting worn down, and stuff happens, because that's not really the focus here. Excadrill spin. God, this is when Excadrill was roaming free with Sandrush. What a dumb Pokemon. Anyway, so Politoed comes in. EO doesn't want to switch in Latios into Ice Beam, so Scarf Politoed or Specs Politoed generally will get walled by a Jellicent, barring predictions. So Ice Beam, and here it just sleeps the Jellicent, and even something like this is dumb, because now if it switches out, it's dead. He has to hope he wakes up, and, also dead. So just generally does not add a lot of positives to the meta, because Hypnosis 60%, waking up, ugly stuff, not fun. So anyway, point being that yeah, so the final replay I want to show before we get into the ban is so we're gonna fast forward a couple of years to this is a Smoke and Tour game from the regular season, May 2019, and this game showed just how dumb Sleep Talk could be, and I'll just let you see it for yourself. So stuff happens. Latios gets pursued. Lando comes in. So I think this is We Three Kings is using Finch's team. So Breloom comes in off a knockoff. Good move from We Three Kings. Maybe a little hasty from Ojama, but yeah. So now the Lando is a Sleep Talker, which is surprising because he had Latios. So he has Sleep Talk Lando and he EQs. Fine. Sleep Talk Latios. Lando is very good as a Breloom check, because, yeah, look, it's EQ, U-turn, HP Ice, no matter what, you're going to do something relevant to Breloom, especially in Sand. I was a big fan of that set. So, that's not really the dumb aspect, though. I mean, having such a good response to a powerful sleep user would be a good thing, right? Such a reliable one. It's like in DPP when I sometimes like to use Spikes, Toxic Spikes, and Sludge Bomb Roserade, which means no matter what, I am doing something relevant to Breloom's team if I eat a Spore from it. So, yeah. And then stuff happens, Excadrill, blah, 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 blah. Not important. And, okay, so now the Lando is in. And now here's the problem for Ojama. He doesn't know what move to make, because Sleep Talk, no matter what move it is, Sleep Talk can ruin it. Even something like Protect isn't guaranteed to work for him, because again, this Lando is guaranteed to sleep for 2 turns. So he can Protect, and then it wouldn't even matter. So now he gets to U-turn on the switch, and bring in this Pokemon for free. Now Lando comes in again on Excadrill, and he's like, okay, well, 66% of the time this is going to do nothing, so fine, that works. And now Lando comes in again. This Sleep Talk doesn't really matter. Good move from Ojama there. Unlucky flinch, so now we're going to sleep talk again. HP ice is a 33% chance, and he pulls it. So now again, Reuniclus, and now Lando again. Well, there's no correct move for Ojama here because, you know, if it's playing the odds either way, and he goes to Lando, Latios, and gets Sleep Talk U-turned on, and this dies, and now he still can win, or he still can lose, and now Sleep Talk, EQ, and so, you know, you could say, well, you know, don't use sleep moves if you don't want this to happen, but that's not the point. It's missing the point. It's showing just how dumb sleep is on both sides. It's just not something we want to have in the metagame, because it's either use this RNG-dependent counter or lose. So, not very reliable. Okay, so now let's go to the banned thread. So, it was actually Ojama's idea. You know, I'm very thankful he thought of it. And then DICE posted this thread in policy review, as you can see. And if you want to read it for yourself, then again, I link everything I show in these videos in the description. And they're also very accessible with some browsing, because here you can see what forum this is in. You know, home, it's smogan.com/forums. So forums and competitive play policy review, very easy to find with some browsing. Anyway, so we're not going to go over the entire thread, because you can read that for yourself at your own pace. But it's basically what I've been summarizing here. You know, the anti-sleep measures are not super reliable. I realize I didn't mention Sleep Talk Lando in this now, 'cause it was less common than, you know, Latios and Gliscor, but, you know, it was obviously a good mention. It was just less common. So, no, the requirements for a good black and white team are already rather strained, given the amount of threats in the metagame, the amount of diverse threats in the metagame, and this, by adding sleep talk to your team, then you make yourself. I mean, look, like I've said in other videos, there's always a trade-off no matter what, but there comes a point where it feels like it's too much, where an element is so strong that it's difficult to play around it without the specific tool. And sleep, I mean, as we've seen, then sleep, if you don't pack a sleep talker or a Gliscor that happens to run into the right matchup, then it can really, you know, a free KO like that is just crazy. So DICE actually was using something like Hypnosis and Dragon Tail Milotic, and that was really dirty, because you would sleep something and then Dragon Tail them out immediately, so in theory they would never wake up. You wouldn't give them that chance. So stuff like that. There was always a creative way to abuse sleep and make it even harder to deal with by bypassing the few counters to it, or few checks to it, I should say. Because even something like Max Defense Gliscor is not the best answer to a Life Orb Technician Bullet Seed spamming Breloom, especially with Swords Dance or something. So, yeah, it would KO stuff and then sleep you if it couldn't KO you. Very, very irritating. So, sleep talk rolls, sleep turns, it's so RNG dependent. It's so strong that banning it was almost universally agreed upon. You know, pretty much everyone was like, yeah, we want to get rid of this. McMegan, Luck Over Skills, ZF, all these other guys you can read in these threads at your own pace. Solwind as well, Finch. So, yeah, some people were afraid that Latios would be too good without being forced to run Sleep Talk. But that wasn't really a very sound argument, because if Latios is so broken without Sleep Talk, then just run a different Sleep Talker and run your Latios without Sleep Talk. And, you know, dealing with Latios, yeah, it's harder with Trick, but you wouldn't, even if that were the case, you wouldn't keep a broken element in the game just to somewhat keep something else broken in check. It's why, you know, if you think Jirachi is broken in DPP, then you wouldn't keep the broken Dugtrio around just to keep that in check. It's not good logic. So, same thing here. And yeah, I mean, Latios being able to spam Trick more freely makes it harder to deal with, but Latios is going to be great regardless, and if you really want to spam Trick with Latios, you can make that happen. And the overall impact of not having sleep around in the metagame is definitely a significant positive. So, and then there was a bunch of debates. Then there were a bunch of debates about sleep claws and, do we want sleep claws to not be around? And that's not really important. The point is sleep moves are banned in black and white. I think that includes Relic Song, Meloetta, and the only thing it doesn't include is Psycho Shifts. Psycho Shift, yeah. I honestly don't even know because that's how little it's used. Because stuff like Relic Song, Meloetta, or Effect Spore on anything, or Rest, Sleep Talk, Psycho Shift stuff, it's just not good. I think Steve Angelo tried to use the Rest Talk, Psycho Shift crest in SPL, and it was just very not good. Anyway, so then I think it was voted on, and yeah, I voted on it, and I voted to ban. And look at this, 23 ban, 4 do not ban, so it wasn't very close. So this, even if the other 10 all voted do not ban, which not likely, then you would still have enough to ban it. So that was a great little post-Christmas present for the black and white tier. And now we are going to explore the impact this has had on the users of sleep moves in black and white. So Politoed doesn't okay, first the sleep absorbers. Gliscor is still great. Lando not having to run Sleep Talk is great. Latios not having to run Sleep Talk is obviously very good. Now it just runs Trick and can run Trick Recover as well. So but it was already running Trick Recover Scarf sets beforehand. Jirachi was a big advocate of that. I think McMegan used stuff like that as well. So that was not something new at all. So, not really important. Now, for the sleep users, then, Politoed not running Hypnosis, I mean, who cares? That is really minor. Amoonguss really took a big hit from this. Because part of what prevents Amoonguss from being just a blob is Spore. And, because Spore will prevent something like Heatran from switching in for free. And by being able to Spore something, then you shut something down. You turn this wall that otherwise wouldn't be doing much damage into something that can effectively get a KO on the opponent. And you can do stuff like HP Ice to block Stun Spore and HP Ice to mess with things like Latios and Gliscor. Or Sleep Talk Lando. So it was really effective at doing that. Now it doesn't have to run Sleep Talk itself, but it also doesn't get to run Spore. So now the generally accepted Amoonguss set is something like Giga Drain, Stun Spore, so you don't give Heatran a completely free switch, and then something like Sludge Bomb and HP Fire. Now here's the reason for Sludge Bomb and HP Fire. Without HP Fire, you are complete Ferrothorn bait. I mean, look, you still don't do very much to it, even with HP Fire, but at least you can, tap it, especially at low health. It goes a long way, as opposed to giving it a completely free switch. And Sludge Bomb is necessary. One of Sludge Bomb or HP Ice is necessary, because otherwise you get completely destroyed by Thunderous Therian. And you don't want that. So, this is the generally accepted set. You can run things like HP Ice over HP Fire if you have Magnezone, or if you're just good against Gliscor. But you generally will run this set. Now, there are definitely options for things like Worry Seed to mess up Reuniclus and Gliscor. Clear Smog is great for things like Bulk Up Breloom. Sludge Bomb is also useful for Bulk Up or Special Defensive Breloom. But generally, this is the safest set. There's some room for experimentation. I'm sure you could probably make an argument for not using Giga Drain or something, but Amoonguss is still useful, but, I mean, it used to be amazing, and now it's really dropped off a cliff. Let's check where it is in the viability rankings. I personally, at its peak, I would have put Amoonguss at the very least at the top of A. It was so good, so reliable, so easy to slap on teams. It was just an amazing Pokemon to have. I mean, seriously, look through black and white tournament games, 2016 through 2018-19, just an amazing Pokemon. Being able to stave off Keldeo, Breloom. I mean, I used to do stuff like staying on Zam if I was at full health just to break its sash. It was great, and you would just regenerate it off. It was great. It was such a good Pokemon. I miss Amoonguss. I do think the black and white sleep ban has been a positive for the tier overall. Would never say otherwise, but I do miss how good Amoonguss was. Anyway, so Amoonguss used to be, I would even put it in A+ personally. It was incredible. And now it's in B+. Yeah, that feels about right. I mean, it's still got its place. I mean, it's very good on certain sand offense teams, but yeah, you're gonna It's not nearly as slappable as it was. Now, Breloom, on the other hand, the Technician set is very, a lot rarer. I mean, players like Ojama were messing around with Choice Band, and we'll see a replay later where Choice Scarf gets used. I think that's interesting. But those don't really need let's say band would be something like Mach, Bullet Seed, Superpower, and then like Low Sweep. I mean, I guess you could throw in Rock Tomb or something. Low Sweep's speed drop is really nice. Like, I didn't even mention the Technician set with Low Sweep, because, and that's a good one, because like with Rocks Up, then you outspeed Latios and Tornadus. Yeah, Sleep Talk Tornadus was rain specific, so not very slappable, but that was also a great sleep absorber. And not having to run Sleep Talk anymore makes Tornadus better. But, I mean, going back to the Latios point, then you could also say, well, on rain it gets even easier because you can just run Sleep Talk Tornadus, and now your Latios doesn't have to run Sleep Talk. So, but, not having to pray that Tornadus' Sleep Talk selects a certain move is also a positive for the metagame. So, yeah, Life Orb, Low Sweep was great for bypassing things like Latios and Tornadus with Rocks Up. So that made the Breloom even more difficult to deal with, because you had to use those guys to block the sleep, but then you couldn't because it could just rip through you. So they would be Spore, Mach, Bullet, Low Sweep, and Low Sweep is a very strong move with the Technician. So now with Choice, I don't think Life Orb is really worth it anymore, but Mach, Bullet Seed, Low Sweep, and then like Stone Edge or Superpower for more power. I mean, Choice Band Bullet Seed is vicious versus something like Reuniclus. And then, Rock Tomb is probably also fine, if you're trying to catch like a Thunderous, which is, Thunderous is a good check now that it doesn't run Spore anymore, so you can just switch it right in. So, it could be useful there, and for something like not letting Dragonite set up on you. So, and of course, catching Torn switch-ins and Latios switch-ins. Now, these Pokemon are nice, but the primary Breloom set is the specially defensive set. Now, amazing as this seems, Breloom has gotten better with the sleep ban. I mean, the special defensive set only, of course, but I mean, it's absolutely astonishing because, I mean, it could run these sets that we're about to go over even without, with the sleep ban. But now that, you don't really feel, oh, I have to run Spore because it's so good, then you explore more options, and it's really taken off. It's absolutely astonishing. The only move it's guaranteed to run now is Drain Punch. Then it's going to have its Fighting Stab, so Drain Punch on bulkier sets, and Focus Punch on more offensive sets with Substitute. We'll see those. So we've got Protect, Drain Punch, then Seed Bomb or Facade. Facade is better against literally everything else besides Jellicent. I mean, being walled by Jellicent kind of sucks, but Jellicent's been having a tough time in the meta lately with things like Sandforce, Excadrill, so Breloom takes advantage of that. Of course, Seed Bomb is safe, but Facade is stronger against neutral targets like Gliscor and Reuniclus. Those are big ones. And crucially, it hits Thunderous, Tornadus, and Latios very, very, very hard. So Facade is generally preferred. And then the last slot is home to a couple things. On bulky sets like this, then Bulk Up is a great one. Swords Dance is another one because it allows you to power through a lot of Reuniclus sets, a lot of Gliscor variants. Bulk Up is nice for being able to take things like Terrakion and Garchomp. So it's really team-dependent, player preference-dependent. So one of those two. So that's one set. And then the other set goes all-out offensive, and even without maximum bulk investment, then it's still a very good sponge of things like Rotom Wash and Scalding Politoed and Tentacruel. So this is just Sub-Protect. I don't know who first came up with this set. I think it was either Finch or Dice or Zia. I think it was Finch. I mean, Finch can, if he hears this, then please correct me. I think it was him I first saw using this. But yeah, this set is an absolute beast, and it rips through teams. What's the Poison Heal number? It's 264, because it's divisible by 8, so 272, 280, 288, so the next one will be 296. Can't quite get there, so we go to 288. Poison Heal numbers are good. And then we throw the rest into, let's just give them both, both defenses. Nice little spread. So, yeah, this set is an absolute monster. Facade over Seed Bomb, very much an option. I mean, you're beating Rotom anyway, so. Yeah, so these are the main Amoonguss sets you run. You can run more attack investment than I showed on the Swords Dance set because the default for bulk up is just to go max HP or close to max HP. 320 is also a poison heal number, and max SPDF. Throw in some defense EVs if you like, but primarily the bulk up set prefers to tank hits first, maybe sweep later, whereas Swords Dance still wants to run a ton of special defensive bulk to take things like Thunderous HP Ice, but also wants some offensive investment, so you do things like threaten Gliscor really hard and 2 a KO Reuniclus after a dance, so the calc is your best friend. But with this outright Sub-Punch set, then you want offensive investment. So yeah, the 209 speed benchmark I've been showing is for Rotom Wash. Can go lower, can go a little higher. I don't think it's really needed, but you can. Anyway, so now we're going to examine the latest SPL where these variants of SPDF Breloom showed themselves to be, complete monsters. So the first one we have here is Caetano 93. Oh, and I'll spoil alert, after SPL, then there was a second vote held. Because whenever something is done like this in an old gen, then it gets re-voted on after 6 months. So in case it was a mistake, then it can be fixed. So we had this with Latias and DPP, and we're going to have it again with Dugtrio. At the time of this video, that's in 6 months. So anyway, so the second vote, it was not a close one. It was 21-2. I voted ban on it again. So yeah, spoiler alert, the metagame is better without it. So now let's go to SPL. Let's shift these dimensions back. And actually, it might have been Caetano who was first using the Sub-Punch Breloom. I'm not sure. Again, if someone wants to give me a source. As a whole, it's very difficult to credit a certain set to one player most of the time, especially because a lot of good players think similarly. They see the game in similar ways. So, great minds think alike is very much applicable. And I mean, I'm talking like more inventive sets. No one is going to claim that they invented Swords Dance Garchomp or something. I mean, I've actually seen stuff like that happen, but yeah. So this game, again, not analyzing the games themselves, but just Breloom's impact. So here we see Breloom against a Rain team, so it's going to have a lot of opportunities coming in against those bulky Politoads, those Tentacruels, and threatening everything. I mean, look, here we have a Latias and a Lando, and it's still going to be annoying. So yeah, this was the first use of the Sub-Punch Loom, so I think I want to credit it to Caetano. So, and he's using Facade too. So Lando can check it, but I mean, as soon as the rocks go up, then it gets irritating. And Breloom is not just good against Rain with dealing with these bulky Scald pokes, the Scald Toxic pokes, but also against Sand because it absorbs a Rotom completely, and it switches into Ferrothorn without fear, and it switches into Tyranitar as well, and its checks are very often frail. So things like Scarf Lando and Latios are frail, and then the bulkier checks like Reuniclus and Gliscor can very much be overwhelmed. So you have this Pokemon that has a ton of ways to deal with its checks or just be difficult to switch into. So it's an absolute monster, and I mean, honestly, Spore was almost a straitjacket for it, because look at all the good moves it runs now. I mean, look, against a team like this, I mean, this team could not really exist without a Sleep Talk Lando, Zolcuru's, because otherwise you just, lose a Pokemon automatically. But you don't love Sleep Talk Lando because you want other moves on it. You want Rocks, you want Protect, you want Superpowers coverage, depending on if you're running Scarf or something defensive. So not having to run a Sleep Talk move slot on Lando is definitely better. But at the same time, Breloom is still a massive, massive threat. Look, comes on Breloom, subs up. So, I mean, Ferrothorn only has 8 Gyro Balls, and with Protect, then it's fine. Now you start spamming Focus Punch. I mean, Zolcuru was, if he ever wanted to get a Prox, then it would have been nice. And Latias checks it, but Facade still chunks it hard. God, he had to switch in Lando on the U-turn, or on the sub to intimidate it. So, yeah, I mean, you could argue that Zolcuru could have had to be more careful of the Breloom threat, not knocking off the other Pharaoh, because that gave Breloom a free switch. I guess he assumed that Caetano's Pharaoh was going to go for spikes. But, I mean, that's less on Zolcuru and more, look at the amount of pressure Breloom exerts just by existing on Caetano's team. It's like, do I get out my rocks? Do I knock off the Pharaoh? Because I need to knock off the Pharaoh for my Rain team to be effective. That's a staple for Rain now for a long time. Or do I, let the Breloom come in for free? Oh, it's hard. So I think rocks was generally the safest move, but at the same time, it's tough decisions. So, Wish, even with wishing to the Lando, I mean, look at how it just cleaves through everything. So, at -1, his focus punch still slams Tentacruel, and now he doesn't even decide. That was a good move from Sakura. Getting the Intimidate, U-turning, back to... I mean, Spikes is going to annoy the Pharaoh, but at the same time it comes in. He doesn't even bother with the sub. And does he even have Protect on this? I don't think he does. He might be 3 attacks. Okay, yeah, so that was how... So before SPL, everyone was terrified of Spit F Breloom. And that is an example of just how scared they were of it. So... People were so scared of it that, you know, a lot of teams beforehand, like Sand teams that relied on Latios for it, you know, as people were more and more aware of the power of Protect Breloom as a whole, not just alongside Sleep Talk or alongside Spore or without Spore, then people were really afraid of it. And this was the first week of SPL, and you see that in the case of HP flying Lando. You know, he... That's not HP Ice. HP Ice would never kill there. That was HP flying. That's how scary it was. And even then, look at the damage Breloom has done already. So the rest of the game doesn't really matter, but Breloom is just monster. So anyway, that was one. Here are 2 Brelooms facing off. So now we have Breloom 1, Breloom 2, and both are protecting on each other. Oh no, sorry, raise a Swords Dance. So here's an example of how the more offensive Breloom can make the other... Even the Poison Heal Breloom, even that can be made to pay. So now Swords Dance. If you want more examples, by the way, of Breloom on Breloom stuff, look up McMegan versus Soulwind, the black and white game from Classic Finals 2019. That was... yeah, so now Breloom Swords Dances, and John's running a Style of Rain, which I don't think could really be considered too viable anymore, because look at how much Breloom makes it struggle. I mean, he has Protect, so, I mean, Explosion isn't getting him anywhere, and... Keldeo is just going to get Drain punched away because I think he's running Facade and a very bulky spread. So, and then, you know, he gets crit. So, without that crit, it's very likely, I mean, barring Jirachi, Ironhead, fun, it's very likely that Breloom would have just won on the spot. So, that was really dumb. Reza had a really unlucky SPL. So, you know, imagine if he still had that Breloom to switch into the Politoed, but, you know, he would have had a tough time even forcing it out. So now we see Breloom protecting on Latios. This is how this style of Rain often deals with Latios, protecting on it so it can't trick as easily. That's how Rain has evolved to deal with a... Oh, is that the end of my playlist already? What? It's like 347 videos long. For those who don't know, the music you hear in the background of my videos is... It found in a public playlist on my channel called Background Music, and I just, unbeknownst to me, it had gone to the end, so I had to skip back. Anyway, back to the replays. Yeah, so now Breloom is, so yeah, Sleep Talk Latios has not proved, or a lack of Sleep Talk Latios has not been broken, you know, any more so than Latios already was or wasn't. So, yeah. Yeah, imagine Breloom against this team, you know, being able to switch into Tentacruel for free, not getting protected on, like Tentacruel and John W's Breloom do. Yeah. Anyway, so the rest of the game isn't really important. Actually, no, it is for the sake of John W's Breloom. Look at how, you know, protecting on Latios, giving Jirachi free switch-ins. Soulwind has used the Breloom Jirachi style of Rain a lot to good success. He was dropping Spore on Breloom real early for similar purposes, you know, getting the most out of its move pool in a metagame that was going more and more in the direction of saving, or going out of its way to deal with sleep. Anyway, so yeah, he tricked. Good move. So anyway, Breloom's still an immense pain in the ass. I mean, that Breloom lived a crit Dragon Pulse from Latios, and Reza managed to win anyway, so that was good for him. Now, Caetano, now we have Reza on the receiving end of a Rain team against Breloom. Now, Reza's team with the offensive prowess of Thunderous is better equipped for Breloom, for sure, but at the same time, it's still Fire Gem Latios. Caetano's crazy. But at the same time, it is very much... Oh, so there was a lucky turn there. He didn't lead off with the Breloom and had to risk switching it into Scald. So he got lucky there that didn't happen. And it would have been a good lead considering Reza led off with Ferrothorn. Although I guess against Ferrothorn you're obligated to protect if you don't have sub. Otherwise you might get your Toxic Orb knocked off. So yeah, I got lucky there. But yeah, get the rocks up, and then Thundurus and Latios are going to be annoying. Another reason for Thundurus to run physical defense. But I mean, look at Breloom shrugging off that HP Ice, and now it's going to heal with Protect, and I mean, he didn't heal with Protect, and Reza made a good move going on the offensive. But, I mean, look at how annoying that Breloom can be, just healing off those crazy strong attacks with Protect and Drain Punch in addition to Toxic Orb, or Toxic Orb Poison Heal Recovery. Yikes. So now it's back. Now you got to go to Latios, switching it into a Facade. He switched to Keldeo on the Protect, good move, and he just stayed in. I think he might have been HP Flying. Yeah, he was HP Flying, and Caetano either didn't expect it to be Flying, or expecting it to be Ice, or just predicted his switch. Either way, it did turn out to be Flying and not Ice because it was resisted by T-Tar. HP Flying Keldeo was actually a thing already a couple of years ago because it helped deal with Toxicroak, which was sometimes annoying for Specs Keldeo teams, both Rain and Sand, but especially Rain. And it also threatened to Mungus really hard. So... and of course, special defense of Breloom was a massive pain. So, and I absolutely agree with things like HP Flying Keldeo or even HP Flying Thundurus in the current metagame. Not even necessarily choice for Keldeo. Not mixed, but all-out attacking sets can use it to great effect because Breloom is just that annoying. I mean, look at it. Look how easily it comes in. Look how it's so hard to do anything back to it. It's just. Breloom versus Rain is amazing, and against Sand it's amazing. I mean, the only matchup where Breloom isn't absolutely incredible is against Dragmag, and even then it's not completely useless, but when you're dealing with both Rain and Sand, I mean, I take that trade every time. Give me a Pokemon that's great against both Rain and Sand and just make it not so good against Dragmag? I mean, absolutely. So yeah, Breloom is just ridiculous. And, yeah, so that was another one. Here's a great example of the Sub-Punch Breloom. And Dice was using an unusual team with Dual Lotties and Milotic and Donphan. But, even if he was using different Pokemon, then... I mean, look, those are 2 prime Breloom checks, supposedly. And Finch subs up. Arguably could have subbed on the Milotic, but now Dice is trying to get the initiative with Donphan switching in on the Latias check Jirachi. And now we just start spamming Focus Punch. And yeah, look at this, Latias. I mean, he has a Seed Bomb here, not Facade. But can you please play the next thing? Okay, there we go. So yeah, now Latias is forced into recovering. I mean, short term it checked it. I mean, next time it's coming in at 76%. And it's probably not switching and not giving Breloom 2 Focus Punches, just 1. But at the same time, Breloom's going to get a ton of opportunity because this Milotic could be any bulky water. Consider it a Rotom Wash or a Slowking if you want. And it's going to come in and chase out the Pokemon and put Dice on the defensive. And, this is very exploitable. So with the U-turn, get the rocks up reliably. And now with rocks up, that's where Breloom is really terrifying. So Dice with the rarely seen Scarf Magnezone. So, yeah, now Breloom in again with rocks up, subbing, protecting. Dice makes a good move and goes for Calm Mind on the protect, but at the same time, this Latias is not breaking through this Jirachi. And, yeah. This is a great team by Finch, by the way. But yeah, it really showed the power. So I think Finch was the first to use, because I've been going in chronological order of SPL Breloom games, and I don't think Caetano's Breloom had protect. I mean, if it did, then he can correct me. And I think I read somewhere that he might have. I'm not 100% sure. But this was the game where everyone realized, oh my god, sub and protect on Breloom. That's incredible. So, Finch deserves a lot of credit for showing it to the world. I mean, look at the... Focus Punch has a lot of PP, too. It has 32 PP. So, these 16 roosts are not very good against it. I mean, you could say he shouldn't have Calm Minded there, or he could have Recover Stalled, but it was very much... Time is very much on Breloom's side, and that, as a whole, is why it's so good. I mean, imagine if he subbed on the Milotic there. That was even more GG than it already was, so... That's a fat. Actually, the Breloom is naturally slow, so no, never mind. He shouldn't have subbed on the first turn because I forgot that this Breloom. I guess it could run speed, but you could also run max HP, max attack, and be very good on a sub punch set. Or 236 HP. Remember poison heal number for maximum recovery. Very useful when spamming protect. So, yeah, you want that, and thus it's going to be naturally slower than a 0-speed Milotic, which is 198. So, anyway. Moving on, this game is not an example of Poison Heal Breloom because we've seen more than enough of that. But it's an example of non-Poison Heal Breloom. So he's running an offensive team here. And makes the he eats a Focus Blast with Chopple and makes the ballsy move of staying in. And John W. just U-turns out. So yeah, I don't know if he was predicting him to stay in. I think he was hoping for a miss because he went for Ice Beam. But yeah, so now Torn is in. It's a Scarf Latios, and it's an unusual team from Soulwind. He gets an unfortunate crit, and rocks go up, and Dragon Claw, Reinoclus comes in, Psychic crit. Yeah, luck was not on John W's side, but at the same time, look at how dangerous a Scarf Breloom is to John W's team. Also, he's using a different Magnezone set, which I appreciate. So, if Ferrothorn, look, if rocks go up against John W's team, then, and this goes for a lot of Rain teams as well, if rocks go up, then the only real answer to Bullet Seed is going to be either a Stealth Rock Weak Tornadus or Thundurus, or a Latios, which doesn't really enjoy taking them, especially if it's not Scarf itself. And a lot of Latios are Scarf themselves, but that makes them more prone to being trapped by Tyranitar. So it's either that or Ferrothorn, and we all know how that Ferrothorn does not want to switch into Breloom's fighting moves, not to mention, here in this case it's supported by Magnezone, so that makes it even easier. So yeah, it's, and John, doesn't bother. He got really unlucky in that game, but this shows that it's not just Poison Heal Breloom that's running the metagame. I mean, it is, but it also shows that there's a lot of potential for non-Poison Heal Breloom, and I hope to see it explored more in the future, especially interested in Choice Band. Finally, this game in the finals, Finch using a similar team to what he used against Dice. If not the same team, was it the same? Jirachi, Lando, Rotom. No, this one has Excadrill, yeah. So yeah, Breloom protecting turn 1, and once again, we've got Breloom against Rain. So, protecting, and actually he doesn't even need to protect. He makes some interesting maneuvering, and now Body Slam, U-turn out, Latios, Trick, and now if Ferrothorn ever wants to get up hazards, I mean, the Thundurus is threatening to Finch's team. I actually covered this game in full on my channel if you would like to go check that out. It's from March. So yeah, he Focus Punches immediately. No point in going for a sub and then getting encored or something stupid by Politoed. He just Focus Punches right away, and I guess you could say maybe he should have subbed there. It would have made it really nice to smack that Latios with a Focus Punch, but at the same time he protects, so Reza's got to, and at the same time, it's not as easy as, just double switch as he switches, because, what if Finch predicts that and subs up? Like, let's say you want to predict the Excadrill switch, so you go to your Tentacruel, and Breloom just subs up, expecting you to switch, and now you're, losing 2 Pokemon probably, so... and he misses the Toxic. That really, really bit. So now he's got to do this. Finch played this game really well. And now Breloom is going to get another opportunity for a KO. I'm starting to think maybe he didn't even have sub or something. He could definitely be protect 3 attacks. That's another underexplored aspect of Breloom. It doesn't need to run... I mean, I would assume so with Focus Punch. But yeah, there's the sub. So now he Focus Punches again, so I mean, look at how, and now what's his switch? Stuff that dies or Tentacruel, which he can't, he breaks a sub because of Rain. I don't know how much bulk he has on it, but at the same time, it's, so once again, if he had Facade, it'd be even more dangerous. I mean, just imagine if he's able to Facade these Thunduruses and these Latioses. So once again, Finch played a really great game. And got a little bit of luck in return, but just, yeah, that was unfortunate. Anyway. So, All right, so that's been all from Breloom. So I think that basically covers everything we wanted to go over in this video in terms of the sleep ban. So sleep is not getting unbanned ever, I hope. Some people have been asking, well, what about sun? Do you want to retest Venusaur and Chlorophyll now that Dugtrio is gone and that it can't use sleep anymore? I could see that argument. I'm not personally a fan of introducing more stuff into an already, tough to build in metagame, but, it's reasonable now to imagine that being the case. So, yeah. And I think that's basically it. So, we're going to actually finish this video under an hour, to my surprise. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. Come join the Discord server. Have a lot of fun. You can ask there in real time. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to how non-Poison Heal Breloom shapes or continues to adapt. Maybe if we can get some different use out of Amoonguss. And how Poison Heal Breloom will continue to shape the metagame. It's so good. I mean, some players have even been using Toxic Breloom. And that's how good Special Defensive is. I mean, if you Toxic a Latios or a Thundurus, then, game over for, that Pokemon, of course. So, yeah, Toxic Breloom is also really good. There's so many possibilities, move combinations for it to use effectively. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to Technician Breloom. Once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I think I've like, comment, all that good stuff for algorithm, fun, Discord server. Alright, those are all my plugs. I think that's where I'm going to call it. So, as I mentioned earlier, everything shown in the video is also in the description. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you next time.